What's up, everyone? This is Heizman. This video is going to be part one of a two-part video series on how to play Lee Sin in the jungle. This video is going to cover more of the what you should and should not do in the jungle, what to look out for, whereas the second video is going to be more mechanical based and the different combos that you can run on Lee Sin. So before I get into the specifics, it's important that you understand Lee's abilities in his kit. So I'm just going to go over each ability. First of all, Lee Sin is unique in the sense that all three of his basic abilities can be cast twice, and this is a little bit tricky to get used to at first, but it's vital in being a good Lee Sin. So first we have his Q, and his Q is a gap closing skill shot that reveals and does most of your damage early game. His W is a point and click ability that will dash you to any friendly unit, including wards, which makes his kit extremely unique. It also gives you a minor shield on cast and lifesteal on the second cast. Next we have his E, which is a short range AoE ability, revealing and doing moderate damage on first cast, and on second cast will slow the enemies hit by the initial cast. Lee's ultimate is a point and click ability that will send his target flying in the direction that you're facing and will deal extreme damage. Lastly, we have his passive, which grants attack speed on ability casts that will stack up to 2 times and last for just a few seconds, but you can be repeatedly triggering his passive with your abilities. So now that you know what's in Lee's kit, we can move on to the more specific tips for Lee. So the first thing to learn on Lee Sin is his jungle path. Every jungler can have some overlapping jungle path, but there is going to be a unique factor for every jungler. And the standard path that you should take for Lee, and this is assuming that nothing crazy happens at level 1 or 2, is to take the bottom side camp and then the buff, which would either be Krugs to red or Gromp to blue, and then immediately go to your top side buff. From there, you'll look at your solo lanes and see if there's any immediate gank opportunities. If there's not, then you'll go ahead and take the Scuttle Crab in the top side river and then reassess. But if there is, then you'll need to make a decision. Is it easy or an urgent enough gank to go for with the little health that you'll have remaining after your initial clear, or are you just too low and it's too risky, in which case you want to go to Scuttle Crab and heal up. And the way you're going to use Scuttle Crab to heal up is by continuously proccing your W, or the lifesteal from your W, as you're killing the Scuttle, because obviously the Scuttle won't fight back, so you're not going to lose any health. But when you get the lifesteal from your W, you can just continuously hack away and get your health back up so that you can gank. Now it is important that you do gank early, because Lee Sin hits his first power spike at level 3, which means that you need to be utilizing this in some way. The next important thing to be doing as Lee Sin is to be keeping tabs on the enemy jungler. Lee's a really strong dueler in the early game, so if you have an opportunity to counter jungler or counter gank, you want to be utilizing that. Keeping tabs on an enemy jungler is going to take an element of prediction a lot of the time, but you can also gain information on the enemy jungler through proper warding and through good map awareness. Anytime you see the enemy jungler reveal himself on the map, you need to be seeing that in order to determine your next move. For example, if the enemy jungler ganks top and you're near top, you should be making your way to top immediately to counter gank and turn the fight. Another example could be if you see the enemy jungler step on a ward in their jungle and they have less than 50% health. If you think you can safely duel them in their jungle, this would be a great time to go ahead and counter jungle them and go for the kill or just the camp steal and set them behind. Another really important thing to understand as Lee is the possible gank paths that you can take. Lee's one of the few junglers who can actually gank from just about anywhere. Because of how mobile Lee is and how out of position you can get an opponent with your ult, you can take some really creative gank paths. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to show you guys all the standard and creative gank paths that you should be looking for in each lane as Lee Sin. First, let's take a look at top lane. The first scenario I'm going to look at top lane is when your laner is getting pushed into the turret and their top laner is obviously a little overextended. Now, most good players are going to have it warded, however, not everyone will, but it's still important that you get a sweeper and maybe even some pinks ready to go for when you want to set up a gank. So in this scenario here, you're going to it's just a pretty standard gank path. You're going to either come through your tri-bush or you're going to come right up through river because they don't have much time to react. As soon as you're there, you can gap close and either kick or just slow them down. The second scenario I want to look at for top lane is when your top laner is pushing them into their turret. There's two paths that you can take to effectively gank in this situation. Let's look first at path 1. And this is where you come through lane and sit in the brush top lane, and you wait for their the enemy top laner to make a move, and then you immediately go in and just turn the fight into a 2v1 and either dive or get his flash, whatever you can do. And then the second gank path is where you go through their jungle, get into their tri-bush, and you just kind of assess, can this work? Do you wait for your wave to hit their turret and get a turret dive, or do you just ward jump over the wall and go right in? So those are the two possible gank paths for that scenario. Next, let's look at mid lane and some ways that you can gank mid efficiently. So scenario 1 is your mid laner is getting pushed into his turret. This is like the ideal scenario for Lee Sin because you can come from literally anywhere mid lane. If you see where all those lines are, you can come through the brush on either side. You can come from behind their lane altogether, or you can just sit right behind your wall next to your mid laner and just war jump over the wall. I mean, if you ever see your mid laner getting pushed to the turret and you know that you can get a good gank off, that's the gank that you want to go for because you can literally come from anywhere. And chances are he doesn't have all 6 of those spots warded. The second scenario that you'll often run into is your mid laner is shoving them into their turret. Same concept as top, but the best places that you can come from when ganking their mid laner when they're getting pushed is these 3 gank paths. So let's first look at path 1. So you're just going to go right up to the Wraith Pit, war jump over the wall, flash kick, or just kick them into your mid laner. You could also come from path 2, which is where you actually go all the way around to that little wall and war jump over there. It's a little bit easier to pull off because they can't react to it as fast. And then the third path, and this is a little bit riskier, but if you're ahead or you're tanky, you can probably pull it off, is you just come from the other way, war jump over the giant brush, and same concept. Alright, next let's look at bot lane and some scenarios that could happen there. So first scenario, your bot lane is getting shoved into their turret. The enemy bot lane is being a little aggressive. They probably have warded up if they're pushing this hard. So you have to be aware of that. So you have to act fast as Lee Sin. Unless if it's not warded with a pink or a sweeper. But there's 3 paths that you can take to set up a gank from this scenario. The first path is very simple. You just come right through lane, you tell your bot lane to engage, and then you just join the fight. Path 2 is probably your safest bet, and that's just to war jump over the wall into their brush, and then just swing around and try and cut them off before they can escape. And then path 3, and this is more of an advanced path, but it's a great way to bypass wards because chances are they're going to have all of river warded, and potentially they'll have tri-bush warded too, but they won't have time to react if you go quick enough. Is you ward jump, you go into Dragon Pit, you ward jump into their tri-bush, and then you just wrap all the way around and kick the ADC into your team or the support, whoever you can get. Okay, so the last scenario I want to look at, and this is again for bot lane, is the opposite when your bot lane is shoving into their turret. This is probably the hardest gank that you can make as Lee Sin, is when your bot lane shoving them in. And honestly, you're not really going to be able to gank. The best thing you can do is predict a gank from their jungler and counter it. Or, if you're lucky, they'll start fighting when you're sitting there. And so the first path is you'll just come through lane and you'll sit in that brush, and you got to make sure it's not warded first. And you'll sit there and you'll just wait. Don't wait too long because you don't want to waste your time, but wait and see if something breaks out and you can be there. And then obviously 2, you just go and you sit in their tri-bush and just try and wait for a fight to break out and join the fight. And then the third path is a little bit more unique, is you actually just sit right in that fog of war, right behind the little patch of trees there, and if a fight breaks out, you're right there to pick up on it, and you're also able to, if you're really really good at Lee, is you can war jump over the wall, Q either the support DAC, and then flash kick, and that's obviously going to be really difficult to do in any situation, but if you're really trying to feed your bot lane, that's a viable option. Now obviously this was only for when you're red side, but the logic can be flipped, and you can do the exact same thing on the other side. So that's the important things to know on Lee. I'm just gonna briefly touch on what you should be doing at the end of the game when team fights start to break out. You're not really a great team fighter as Lee. You don't really have the tools to be a great team fighter. However, you can still impact the game and change a team fight simply by using your ultimate to catch out a carry. If you don't really have the ability to get to their backline and catch out a carry, then your best bet is just to clean up the fight and use your ultimate to peel for your carry. So lastly, let's go over just what you should be building on Lee and how you should be scaling his abilities. I'm just going to put a few pictures on the screen of his build path and his move scaling. Alright guys, that's the end of this video. Like I said, part 2, which will be the focus on the combinations that you can run on Lee and the more mechanical based things. I'm going to be releasing that within a week or two, so look out for that. On a side note, I've been developing some apps lately, and I thought I might as well use my YouTube videos as a way to promote them. So everyone go on the App Store right now and download the app Walter. It's free to play. It's extremely fun, extremely addicting, and extremely challenging. And so that's my challenge to you. Go download Walter. Also, if you like this video, be sure to check out my Lee Sin montage. I'll put that link in the description. And also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, because I really like doing this and I want to continue to do it. But I'm going to need some positive feedback and reinforcement from the people watching. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it. Thank you guys.